If you want to see change in your child's eating habits without pressure, constant mealtime battles, or the shame you grew up with, you're in the right place. Welcome to Family in Focus. I'm Dr. Wendy Schofer, the pediatrician helping parents lead meaningful change without harm. Here we focus on the connection and practical shifts that help families thrive at every size. Let's get started. I want to share something that I'm not particularly proud of. For years, I sat across from families in my pediatric office and I gave them the standard guidance. You know exactly what this sounds like. Eat less, move more. Let's keep an eye on your child's BMI and their weight. It was evidence based and honestly very well intentioned. It was exactly what I was trained to do. And families left my office feeling like they were failing. And quite honestly, I felt like I was failing them because when they would come back and they'd say, "We're failing this plan," I was like, I've got nothing else to give. And yet I could see it in their faces. I could see how my guidance, my support was not helping them. It was actually making things worse. And it took me a while to really figure out that it wasn't the families. It quite honestly wasn't me that was failing. It was the approach. And when I started pulling on the thread, asking questions, where did this approach come from? Who built it? Why do we do it this way? What are we actually trying to do? What could possibly be better? I couldn't stop with asking the questions. And that's what today is about. It's really about asking the questions of why are we doing it this way? Really, why are we doing it this way? And so let's go back to that exam room. Like, what did it look like in practice? A child comes in for a well child visit. They are growing, they're developing, they are doing great. Yes, the BMI flags as elevated. Perhaps they've had an uptick in their growth velocity over the last year. And so I'd have that conversation. Eat less, move more. Let's get that number down. Let's have it just stabilize was really the initial step that we would talk about. And I really want you to think about this for a second. Where else in parenting are we telling our kids, you know what? Not so fast, kid. You got to slow down in the way that you're growing. You know, I'd actually prefer that you be more mediocre. What are we doing here? Where else do we look at a child who is thriving and say, yes, but the number? And that question really started, sitting with me and really bothering me. And I think it should bother all of us. So the BMI, the body mass index, it was developed by a Belgian mathematician whose name always gets up in my mouth. So I'm just going to say a Belgian mathematician back in the 1830s. This was not a physician. He was not even studying health. He was doing population level statistical analysis. He was mathing and he was trying to describe the average characteristics of large groups of people. And he was explicit. He said that his formula, remember, it's math, his formula should not be used to assess individual bodies. And yet here we are, nearly 2 centuries later, using this number as the primary screening tool for children's health in pediatric offices around the country, yes, around the world. And it's applied to kids, it's applied to people of color, even though the original data came from an almost entirely homogeneous population, so all the same of white European men. And it's been applied to individual bodies that it was never designed to touch. Now, keep in mind that this isn't something where there's like a devious plan that's going on. This is what happens when a system inherits a tool, strips it of all the context that it came with, and then just keeps passing it down. Nobody stopped to ask why. What we're finding is that diet culture isn't something that is just in magazines. It's really gotten into the science in our day-to-day health messaging. It's gotten into our medical training. And so now we have it in the BMI charts in every single office. And honestly, it got into me. And out of my mouth, I was like, I cannot believe what I'm saying. This sounds remarkably like what I've heard elsewhere about trying to shrink bodies. That's the thing. That's where systems work, where they just infuse themselves into all different parts of our lives. You inherit the approach, and you may be delivering it with the best of intentions, but you're not really learning to question where did it come from until you see the harm. And so we needed to see the harm in order to really be able to say, hold on a minute, this isn't working. So I think that that's a really important part of the story for me to say that it's because I noticed that this was causing harm that I was able to say, hold up, let's change this. And if you're seeing harm in your home, in your family, it's just the wake up call for all of us to be able to say, I want something different. I choose different. So here's something else I think we need to really kind of name here because we have diet culture, fitness culture, and health culture, and they didn't all start in the same place. So you have weight loss programs, so diet culture, where really kind of celebrating and practicing there. Sports clubs and athletics, where there's a lot of the fitness culture, going to the gym. And then doctors' offices, where we're really leaning into health culture. These used to operate in very different spaces, very separate goals and different language, but they've really converged over the last generation. And so what we now have is one unified culture of controlling bodies, using the language of health, the aesthetics of fitness, and, well, also the authority of medicine that's coming in. And it's all pointed at the same target, the body, as a problem to be managed, measured, shrunk. And really what's happened is the tools have multiplied. So, we have calorie counting and macros and BMI and body fat percentage and step counts and now GLP-1 medications. And there's all these different entry points, but all of it's coming back to saying the body's not okay. We need to control and manage. And so noticing that these three different industries have all come together and morphed into one, that one industry is organized around controlling bodies. So it's time to ask some questions because this is not working for our families. And until we really pull back and see what it is that isn't working for our families, we won't be able to address that. So I think we need to start asking some questions. First of all, who decided what the ideal body looks like? Where is it that we've decided that there's a look to ideal health? What the heck is ideal in any of this? Who benefits when we believe that our bodies are problems? I want you to think about that for a moment. Who benefits when we believe that our bodies are problems? What gets ignored when we focus on the number, whether that's on shrinking or on controlling, even on bulking, as I'm thinking about our adolescent boys and how we're actually trying to bulk in a lot of ways, focus on increasing protein. This is all related within this culture. And so this is where this is really becoming a feminist issue, not because it only affects women. It doesn't, but because the control of women's and girls' bodies has a long, specific, very well documented history. Diet culture has disproportionately targeted women and girls, and it sells the idea that a woman's body is a project, a work in progress, something to be managed and fixed and justified. And it starts so early. So this is where I've settled for now, really looking at health not as a number, not as a percentile, not some kind of like before and after appearance, a photo or some kind of medication success story, but really health as a composite of relationships. So your relationship with food, whether it feels safe, pleasurable, sustainable, flexible, variable. Your relationship with your body, whether you are able to tune into it, to listen to it, to trust it, to live within your body without all of this constant nitpicking and judgment and renegotiation, and your relationships with the people around you. So, whether you are finding that you are in a safe space where you're able to share connection with others and grow together. And when I really started shifting from chasing the numbers and really tracking numbers to asking about relationships, that's when everything changed. Not just for the families that I work with, but it all started with me, with my own health, with my own family. And then it became an extension that I practice with families. And that shift is really about going from control and management to curiosity and relationships. And I think that that's what countering diet culture really looks like. And that is something that is available to each of us. So in our homes, in our families, but it's starting with each of us individually. And that can feel like you're being really rebellious, like you're kind of doing something that's going against the grain. Yes. And we're doing this together. So come be a rebel with me. We are going against the culture because the culture is not supporting us. We're asking the questions. We are finding the answers and saying, enough. This does not work for me and my family. Now, if you're like looking for some more, let's just say some more fuel for your fire, I do want to highlight a couple of books that really kind of expand upon what it is that we're talking about here today, about how weight loss became an industry and how it's really gotten into science and policy. So one book to check out is Christy Harrison's Anti-Diet. It will make you angry, in the right way, in the right way, but there is a lot there that she really spells out. And then if you want to really see how that historical perspective has really impacted relationships in your home and with your family, Virginia Soul Smith, she has a book that's called Fat Talk, Parenting in the Age of Diet Culture. That is the book for you. And then the other one that I adore is really going through what a child experiences when all of these messages about controlling a body and weight stigma are being received from so many different locations. So from school, from family, from the medical office. Read Starfish by Lisa Phipps. It's written for middle schoolers, and I got to tell you, it is something that you can share with your whole family because it really is something where we all get to see what it is that kids are experiencing, and you may very well find yourself in the different characters. And you get to see which of those characters you resonate with, as well as which ones you are really learning from and saying, this is what I want to do differently. So in our next episode, we are going to talk about what happens when diet culture doesn't stay in the exam room, when it's coming home, getting into your child, whether it's through a comment, sometimes through a screen, sometimes through something that was said, including by us as parents with the best of intentions. And so we're going to be building on about what are the next steps to do. So now, as always, remember, I'm a doctor. I am not your doctor. And this is for education, not medical advice. So take what fits, leave what doesn't, and be gentle with yourself as you are leading the change you want to see in your family.